1 week to go until the biggest election in the world. The latest on the race for the White House is next on Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Navigating the issues that matter to you. It's Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
In just 1 week, it could all be over. Next Tuesday is Election Day in the United States, and much of the chatter in American political circles lately is about Trump's weekend rally at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Trump's supporters seem to mostly view the event as a great success and a triumphant spectacle held in Trump's hometown and in a city and a state that is a solid shade of blue. Trump's critics, and there are lots of those, say it was a hate-filled rally, littered with racism. Some went so far as to compare the event to a Nazi Party rally held at the same venue in 1939. Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, made a campaign stop in Wisconsin. He dismissed any criticism of the rally and went on the attack against Kamala Harris.
I think that it's telling that Kamala Harris's closing message is essentially that all of Donald Trump's voters are Nazis and you should get really pissed off about a comedian telling a joke. That is not the message of a winning campaign. And most importantly, it's not the message of a person who's fit to be the president of the United States of America. And my own view on this is, look, again, I haven't seen the joke. Maybe it's a stupid racist joke, as you said. Maybe it's not. I haven't seen it. I'm not going to comment on the specifics of the joke. But I think that we have to stop getting so offended at every little thing in the United States of America. I'm so over it.
The joke in question was from a comedian by the name of Tony Hinchcliffe, and this is what he said about Puerto Rico.
There's a lot going on. I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody. This isn't exactly a perfect comedy setup.
Democrats are outraged at that joke and many more comments that were said by people at the Trump rally at Madison Square Garden. New York Democratic member of the House, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, told Tim Walz, the Democratic candidate for vice president, the comments about Puerto Rico highlight what Republicans really think about people.
Obviously, it's super exciting to me. My family is from Puerto Rico. I'm Puerto Rican. And the thing that is so messed up that I wish more people understood is that the things that they do in Puerto Rico are a testing ground for the policies and the horrors that they wish to, and that they do unveil in working class communities across the United States.
People in Puerto Rico are citizens. They pay taxes and they serve in the military at almost a higher rate than anybody else.
I need people to understand that when you have some a-hole calling Puerto Rico floating garbage, know that that's what they think about you.
At a campaign event in Philadelphia, former U.S. President Barack Obama said the comments about Puerto Rico show why this election campaign shouldn't even be close.
The man holds this big rally at Madison Square Garden. And the warm-up speakers were saying we're trotting out and peddling the most racist, sexist, bigoted stereotypes. One guy called Puerto Rico, quote, an island of garbage. Now, these are fellow citizens he's talking about. Here in Philadelphia, they are your neighbors. They are your friends. They are your co-workers. Their kids go to school with your kids. These are Americans. They're people. And that is the reason why this election should not be close. It should be clear.
Former First Lady Michelle Obama made similar remarks at a rally in Kalamazoo, Michigan, also questioning why the race is so close.
Because let me tell you, in any other profession or arena, Trump's criminal track record and amoral character would be embarrassing, shameful, and disqualifying. So, I hope that you will forgive me if I am worried that we will blow this opportunity to finally turn the page on the ugliness once and for all. Because believe me, if Donald Trump is president again, at some point or another, that ugliness will touch all of our lives. And it will not matter what you look like, how you worship, who you love, or how you vote. If you don't make 6 or 8 or 12 figures, if you're not famous, if you criticize or disagree with him in any way, if he doesn't view you as his equal or relevant to his ambitions, I promise you, he will not think about you when he gets into the Oval Office. And that will have real consequences for all of us.
As for Donald Trump, he was back in Atlanta, Georgia yesterday for another rally. Georgia is a key swing state, and he fired back at Michelle Obama.
With your support on November 5th, you know what's nasty to me? Michelle Obama. She was, ooh. I always tried to be so nice and respectful. Oh, she opened up a little bit of a box. She opened up a little bit of something. Oh, she was nasty. Ooh. Shouldn't be that way. That was a big mistake that she made.
More than 46 million Americans have already voted in the election. Many experts in the U.S. Electoral College system think it will all come down to 7 states: Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know on News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Well, he is back from his recent trip to the United States, where he was in one of the swing states, as a matter of fact. So why don't we talk a little bit about U.S. politics today? Professor Ian Lee is back from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. How are you?
Doing very well, thanks, Rob.
That's good. That's good. U.S. presidential election 1 week from today. You were just in Vegas.
Yes.
In Nevada, one of the swing states.
Yeah.
What's your prediction?
I think, this isn't, I'm not getting into whether who should win. I'm not dealing with any of that. I'm just dealing with, my sense of, because I'm following this like a hawk, I'm reading everything I can get my hands on, looking at the polls, real clear politics, and so forth. I think Trump's going to win. It's going to be extremely close, as everybody knows. But I think he's going to win. He's leading in, I think it's 5 of the 7 swing states. It's interesting. I know in Canada there's a lot of people that think, oh, it's just crazy people supporting him. Whenever I talk to Americans, and I was just there, as you know, for a week, and I bring the subject up, but I'm very careful. I say, look, I'm not here to tell you what to vote. I'm a Canadian. It's not my election. I don't vote. Just tell me what you think. And the stereotype in Canada that's just a bunch of crazed, old white racists supporting Trump is so far from the truth. And again, I'm not saying this to defend what's going on in the States. That's not my point. I'm just trying to put facts out there. I'm astonished at the number of blue-collar people who are supporting the Republicans, both black, blue-collar, and Latino, and the number of professionals, people that own businesses, lawyers, doctors, and so it's not the slam dunk that many Canadians think. There's a lot of discontent. And I think that the Democrats have really squandered their chance to win the election, especially because of immigration, which I hear about nonstop down there. I go down there all the time. My sister...
your sister's in Arizona, right?
Yeah, she's 3 hours away. In fact, we left her Vegas for just 2 days to do a quick, sort of family reunion. And so it's 3 hours over, and so we were talking, and she's a she doesn't hide the fact she's supporting the Democrats, but she said awful lot of people supporting Trump, and immigration is just the sense that the Democrats don't care to enforce the border, or once people get in illegally, they don't have any desire to address the issue, is really upset an incredible number of people. And the other one is crime in the streets. The sense that it's out of control, and because of what we call in Canada catch and release, well, they do something quite similar. And I think that's what's going to sink, because a lot of Canadians I talk to and I read all the time say, I just don't understand how on earth can they possibly elect this guy. Okay. And I have two answers for every Canadian who is deeply confused by that. One, illegal immigration. Two, crime in the streets. That is what's consuming a lot of ordinary.
What about the economy, Professor?
It's a very mixed bag.
Okay.
And I'm glad you brought that up. Krugman, Professor Krugman, Nobel laureate, he's a very smart guy.
But a very liberal guy,
money,
too, though.
Very affluent.
Yeah.
And he's saying, I don't understand this. Well, when you look at the data, and I do look at the data, as you know, all the time, the way I like to put it is the top 2 quintiles, the top 40% by income, are doing very well, thank you very much. And so they can say, like Krugman says, I just don't understand it. Everything is coming up roses. But then you look at the data for the bottom 60%, and life is not coming up roses. So there's a real economic split on, let's call it class. I know we're not supposed to use that word in North America because we like to pretend there's no class differences in North America and Canada, the States. Yes, there are. And the same I would say about Canada, too, by the way. It's the bottom 60%, the bottom 3 quintiles, 60% by income, who are struggling. They're finding inflation's really whacking them very hard. And down there, you can see it. The people that are modest incomes are struggling. I mean, I just noticed it in my sister lives in a nice middle class neighborhood, and I just noticed these things because I used to work in a bank a long time ago. So I'm walking around the neighborhood, and the cars are like 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, and she's in a middle class neighborhood. And, a few years ago, they would all been driving shiny new cars, Okay. And so I was just picking up little things like that. So you get outside of Manhattan and Chicago and San Francisco, you get outside of those big, high-income cities, and you get out, Flagstaff is not San Francisco. And there's a lot of people of modest means who are struggling. So I understand. I'm not saying I agree. I'm not getting into what I think.
Right.
But I understand why the election is so close.
Okay. When we come back, Trump and tariffs. If Trump wins, he's talking tariffs. So I'll ask you about that when we come back. Professor Ian Lee is with us from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
Back with Professor Ian Lee from Carleton University's Sprott School of Business. So this was Trump at a recent rally talking about tariffs. Let's listen to this here.
And I say the most beautiful word in the entire dictionary of words is the word tariff. I love tariff. I can make anybody do anything through the use of tariffs. I can keep people out of war. I can keep us out of war. The word tariff is the most beautiful. I think I'll do this just so I don't get myself in trouble. I'm going to say the third most beautiful. Love and religion. And then the word tariff. Then the word tariff. I better do that, right, Vivek? I think I better say love is the most, and religion, they're the number 1, 2. You can switch them back and forth any way you want. This way I've just protected myself. But the third most beautiful word is the word tariff.
Okay. He likes tariffs, apparently. There could be tariffs. First of all, is he crazy, and could they hurt Canada?
Of course they'll hurt Canada.
Okay.
Let's big picture statistics. We import and export 1/3 each way. 2/3 of Canada's GDP, 2/3 is trade dependent. And our largest single trading partner in the world, bar none, not even close. It exceeds the totality of the rest of the world, is the U.S. About 3/4 of our of our exports go to the U.S. So we are absolutely, completely dependent on the U.S., which, of course, is understandable. They are the largest economy in the world, 25 trillion GDP. That's about 25% of the world's GDP, even though there's almost 200 countries in the world, 196 if you want to be technically precise. One country. I talk about this to my students all the time. One country is a quarter of the world's GDP. That's how huge and powerful they are. They're the Rome, the modern Rome of the modern world. They dominate the world. So, of course, we're joined at the hip. We're next door, and they're the biggest. So if he does put tariffs on, I mean, it's going to hurt us enormously. And I'm not being political. You know, I don't belong to any political party or donate money, but I just cannot imagine Mr. Trudeau, if he is reelected, I just cannot imagine him trying to negotiate with Donald Trump, because the mandate requires that the CUSMA, or NAFTA, is renegotiated in 2026. Well, his comments repeatedly have shown he has nothing but contempt, and he despises Trudeau, and he's such a mean-spirited guy, I'm talking Trump, that I wouldn't be surprised that he would do extra damage to us just because Trudeau's the Prime Minister. I'm not trying to suggest it's going to be a walk in the park if Poilievre's the Prime Minister. I think Trump is going to say, you want a new deal? You know all those things that we've been talking about for 30 years that we really don't like you Canadians keeping out our telecom companies and our airlines and our banks and keeping out our agriculture? You want a new trade agreement? You're going to get rid of all of that. So I think that there's big...
So these industries that enjoy these protections...
We have for 100 years, and I call it a lot of people do, the liberal, the Laurentian elites, which is the Liberal Party, basically, the thinkers. They have believed in subsidies and protectionism. That's sort of the core of that system of thought. Yeah. And I think that is going to die. I mean die dramatically because of these changes. Ironically, I've been very critical, as you know, Rob. Oh, yeah. Forever about this belief that we can subsidize and print and protect our way to prosperity. I don't believe we can. So Trump, in a weird way, Trump's election might turn out to be good for us in the long run. Not in the short run, but it'll force us.
Because you think it'll introduce more competition to these sectors.
I do. I think we're going to have to open up our economy, which is why we have such terrible productivity. In fact, every study I've read says it's the protectionism and the lack of competition. So paradoxically, and it is a paradox, that if he is elected, and he will put these tariffs on,
or at least threaten to, right?
Oh yeah, he's going to force us to the bargaining table like no tomorrow, and we will have no choice.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. It's going to be a heck of a week, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I predict a late night for you next
Tuesday. Yes. I'm going to be up all night watching.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week, too. Okay. It'll be good to have you with us that day. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, bye-bye. Right. I'm Rob Snow. That's Ian Lee, Professor Ian Lee, Sprott School of Business, Carleton University in Ottawa. Turn our attention to a very busy day in Canadian politics. Coming up next, our Newsday panelists are standing by for the Newsday panel. You're on News Radio.
Questions.
Now you know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio, the Newsday panel.
And the gang's all here. Neil Brody is with us today, longtime conservative strategist. Spent some time in the Harper PMO. How are you?
Good afternoon, Rob. Not too bad. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good. Great to hear from you. Along with Tim Powers, Chair Summa Strategies, Managing Director at Abacus Data. How are you, Tim Powers?
I'm better that Neil is here and we get to make fun of you. That always makes for a good day.
I know. It's sport. Okay. According to reports, some unhappy Liberals are now asking for a secret vote on the future of Justin Trudeau's leadership of the Liberal Party. Neil, what do you think will come of this?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. Moving right along then. No. Okay. All right.
Listen, Rob, the so-called Liberal leadership cadre should not allow this vote to occur. The chance of the results of a caucus vote being leaked are extremely high in this uncertain environment we find ourselves in. The Liberal government's communication strategy is completely off track due to a phantom letter or petition or whatever you want to call it that was signed by 24 MPs. That's about 15% of caucus. I can't even imagine the circus that would occur if a secret ballot vote in caucus was leaked and it returned something 30, 40, 50% of caucus was telling Trudeau that he needed to resign. And unless Mr. Trudeau can somehow wiggle a secret ballot vote so that 0 caucus members want him to resign, which I think is fanciful at this point, unless you're assured of that result, you can't allow this to happen.
Tim Powers?
Don't you miss the days of like Myron Thompson and Darrell Stinson and all the craziness that used to happen when the Conservative Party was going through its various leadership permutations? There were characters and they were out public and it was interesting. I'm with Neil. Probably not much is going to happen here, but the problem for the Prime Minister is this stuff is not going to go away, though their methods are different than we've seen in conservative circles. There isn't going to be this quieting of discontent unless suddenly, Rob, the polls change dramatically and Justin Trudeau finds his mojo and that mojo allows the gap to be closed as he said he was going to try to do months and months ago. So whether it's a meeting tomorrow and there's a leadership vote, whether it's another letter next week or a former well-respected Liberal premier like Frank McKenna saying if he were in those circumstances, he'd step away till Justin Trudeau either loses an election and or decides to move away, this internal tension is going to exist at different levels.
Okay, so it seems the malcontents, I mean, they want to see some kind of plan. They want to see some pushback, some fight back. Can I sorry
sure.
not
to
yeah,
cut
go
you
ahead.
off. I mean,
That's
look, people were asking for a plan after the Toronto loss in what was that, the end of June. I
yes.
They're still being polite with the Prime Minister. Again, as Neil and I know firsthand, politeness is not what you need if you are looking to unseat a leader who you believe is going to impair your political fortunes. If they keep playing this kind of cotton revolution stuff, they themselves will suffer.
But I kind of want to build on this conversation with another story that's in the news. The Liberals are just now going to start coming up with attack ads on Poilievre. Now, Neil, is it too late for that? Isn't that something they should have done maybe a year ago, if not even before that? What do you think?
Sure, that should have been done the day after Mr. Poilievre won the leadership, whatever that was, two years ago or so. Listen, there's no shortage. I know, Pierre, but there's no shortage of film or recordings of him that they could have used to frame him as a
20 years worth, right? So.
However they wanted to frame him, and that time is now past. Mr. Poilievre has, notionally been working on this plan for about 4 or 5 years. Once he became leader of the Conservative Party, he was ready to go that day to start framing the next election, and he's done a good job of it. And with the polls the way they are, whatever it is, 44 to 22, Conservative to Liberal, there's no wiggle room to get out of this now for Mr. Trudeau. If it was closer, if it was 3 or 4 points or 5 or 6 points separating them in the polls, maybe, but 22 points, 20 points, there's no way to recover from.
Yeah, what do you think of this as well? We're going to start airing attack ads on Poilievre. Oh,
I think
where have you been? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think it's also, I agree generally with Neil that it's unlikely to have dramatic effect outside of the Liberal Party, but perhaps it's a face-saving mechanism inside the Liberal Party. At least they can be focused on, we got ads. So it might mitigate some of the criticism, but Poilievre has done a pretty good job of defining himself. Look, a lot of the public still do not know who he is, so there is space there for movement, but the first mover advantage is long gone.
Okay. When we come back, we will hear from the leader of the Bloc Québécois, Yves-François Blanchet, who says he's going to begin negotiations on trying to bring down this Liberal government, but how far will he get in those attempts? We'll ask our panelists here on the Newsday panel I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know, and this is News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
Here with Tim Powers from Summa Strategies and longtime conservative strategist Neil Brody. It's our Newsday panel. So today was the deadline for the Liberals to meet the Bloc's demands, and this deadline too shall pass. And the leader of the Bloc Québécois, Yves-François Blanchet, says he is going to begin negotiations to bring down the Liberals at the earliest opportunity. So this was Mr. Blanchet taking some questions from press gallery members today in Ottawa. Let's listen to this here.
Jagmeet Singh has said he's ready for an election. Jagmeet Singh has said he's ready for an election, but he doesn't want one. Are you ready for an election, and do you want to have one right now?
Both. I'm ready for an election. That was one of the reasons why we said 5 weeks ago that we were giving ourselves and the government 5 weeks. 5 weeks to go through the bills, which they didn't do. 5 weeks so that there would still be time to go into election before having an election, which would be between Christmas and New Year's Eve. And 5 weeks in order to be absolutely ready to go into election tomorrow morning. Not only are we ready, but we might be expecting that with enthusiasm. I do not believe that Quebecers want elections so much, but I do believe that they will understand that this is where we are now.
Okay, and this was Mr. Blanchet on the Conservatives holding up business in Parliament because everything is still at a standstill over this refusal to hand over documents related to the Green Slush Fund.
Are you talking to the Conservatives about stopping their filibuster so you can get this on the road now?
If the Conservatives want the government to fall, they will have to stop being childish. I don't use it often in the Parliament. They will have to say, okay, this Parliament has to work in order for us to go on with a motion that would put an end to this government. So now they seem to be working against their own intention.
Okay. Tim Powers, what do you think will come of this?
Nothing.
Nothing.
There isn't.
There's so much happening, and yet nothing is happening.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of noise about nothing, right? Like,
okay.
Blanchet knows he's not going to get. I mean, he'll get some aspect, I guess, of the Conservatives will support, but the NDP aren't in place. The NDP need to let the Liberal dysfunction continue to grow so that they can make the argument, as Jack Layton did in 2011, that, you know, blue door, red door, ho, what about the orange door, to paraphrase Mr. Ignatieff of the time. So they're in no hurry for this to happen, and they're not going to be hurt by not supporting Mr. Blanchet.
Okay. Neil?
Well, with the Conservatives and the Bloc on the same side that it's time for the Liberal government to fall, I'm reminded of the great political philosophers of the late 80s, Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock, that it takes to make a thing go right. But in this case, it takes three to bring down the government. It takes three parties. So I don't know what Mr. Singh is waiting for to get on board. Mr. Blanchet's looked at the polls. His, within the province of Quebec, his numbers are going up. The poll aggregators are showing that he could increase his seat count by 10 seats, which is great, for the Bloc Québécois. I don't know what Mr. Singh is doing, continuing to what his political calculation is to continue to prop up a tired, past its date Liberal government, and Canadians will only punish the NDP the longer this goes on. It makes absolutely no sense in my head, and I look forward to Mr. Blanchet and Mr. Poilievre perhaps sitting down and plotting out a strategy to get Mr. Singh into the fold sooner rather than later, so that we can get on with this.
What do you think is the holdup with Mr. Singh, Tim?
It's what I said.
Is it just preparation? They're just not ready? No money, no nominated candidates?
Yeah, it's all of that. They still feel they need to distance themselves a little bit. They like the spotlight on being Mr. Trudeau and troubles in his own party. It allows themselves, I think it allows them to try to rebrand themselves. I think it's all of that. I don't know how much, and I think there's lots of evidence to suggest this, that Canadians are ever too fussed about what happens in Parliament and the games of Parliament. So Singh will find other ways to try and get on their radar. Okay.
So is it safe to say then neither of you expect an election for the rest of this year then? Neil?
The Nova Scotia government has just signaled that they're going to the polls
November 26th.
Late November, yeah. So it doesn't behoove anybody to have two elections going on in the country at the same time. Are you going to then call an election November 27th, the day after the Nova Scotia election, to go to the polls sometime in January?
After Boxing Day, sometime between Boxing Day and New Year's Eve or something.
It worked okay for the Conservatives in 2005, 2006, an election over the holidays. But I can't, nobody wants to cross. I worked on that election at the national level. Nobody wants to crisscross Canada December, January. That's not fun. I remember being in Edmonton and the thermometer in the car, the little temperature readout never changed. It was minus 19 at 8 a.m., at noon, at 6 p.m., at midnight.
Great door-knocking weather, yeah.
It was always minus 19. Nobody wants to do that. So I can't see anything before the spring unless Mr. Trudeau finally decides that he himself wants to pull the plug and go to the polls.
Yeah. And he's not doing that, Tim, when he's 22 points behind, right?
If he actually thinks he can beat Pierre Poilievre, which he seems to do, he's going to not want to go anytime soon.
Right. Okay. When we come back, 1 week from today, it's the mother of all elections, the U.S. presidential election. Get your thoughts on that when we return. It's our Newsday panel. I'm Rob Snow. You're on News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
With Tim Powers, the chair of Summa Strategies, managing director, Abacus Data. Neil Brody, longtime conservative strategist, spent some time in the Harper PMO. And let's face it, the U.S. political news, you just can't miss it these days. 1 week to go until Election Day in the United States. How do you think it's going to turn out, Neil?
Anybody who says they know how this is going to turn out, I'd like to be on what they're taking. Listen, Mr. Trump is marginally ahead in the so-called swing states, but every poll is within the statistical margin of error. So if you believe the phenomenon that there are quiet Trump voters out there who are afraid to make themselves known to national pollsters, maybe Trump is in the lead, but it's still too close for anyone to call.
Too close to call. Okay. Tim?
Well, I would like those drugs too, so let's get them
This is a drug-free show.
Okay, sorry, it's a drug-free show. Okay, good to know. We should all live drug-free. Drugs are bad, kids, if you're listening.
Don't do drugs.
Who the hell knows? It seems that Trump has gotten back in. I mean, not that he'd really ever fallen out, but it again, I agree with Neil. It's too close to call. There's so much distorted, what I would describe as distorted storytelling out there. You just don't know. And maybe that's, again, a reflection of the challenges that the U.S. in particular has, but others have at the moment. The fact that Donald Trump is still could potentially be a president for the second time is really disturbing given all of his well-known historic behaviors.
Okay. Very deep insight today. Nothing is going to happen, and who the hell knows?
That's what you pay us for, Rob. That's what you pay us
worth
for.
Every penny.
Yeah, every dollar's worth, yes. Every dollar's worth, yes.
Let me ask you, but to Neil's point, I remember the day after the 2016 campaign having David Coletto on, because let's face it, the pollsters didn't have a very good night with the first election of Donald Trump, and he outlined what he thought some of the issues were in the polling industry and actually trying to reach Donald Trump's supporters. Neil mentioned, some people, say a pollster calls them, who are you voting for? They just won't admit that they're going to vote for Donald Trump. Not on the telephone, anyway. Do you think that's still an issue, Tim, to a certain degree? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Unless you were standing out Madison Square Garden the other day,
Right.
you probably get an inflated Trump number. Yeah, I think that's still an issue. I think there's such suspicion out there. And look, polling's getting better. There's AI tools that are helping, but I think it's still not, and I say this as somebody who owns a polling company, still working on its precision. How about that, Rob?
Yeah. Why is it important for Canada, do you think, Neil?
If the U.S. sneezes, Canada gets a cold. So much of what we enjoy here in Canada is dependent on strong, stable United States of America, our economy to a certain degree, our safety and security to a certain degree.
Yeah.
It matters enough. I'm not sure it's the only thing that matters. I don't know that Canada will be materially different regardless of who wins this coming election.
Right.
All that matters is that we remain on the good side of the United States, and the United States smiles on us. Without that, the auto industry collapses, the lumber industry collapses. We're closer to Russia and China physically than I think we care to be. And without the United States' natural protection, there are parts of this world who are a lot closer to the sharp end of things than we are. As long as we remain good friends between the two countries, that's what's most important.
I guess it would be too much to ask for is, if the Trump people lose, they would lose with the kind of grace that the BC Conservatives lost with, because I thought that was a kind of a graceful end to the BC election, actually, the way the Conservatives in BC
invested in the states. I think that comment applies to both parties.
Okay.
Depending on who wins next week, I think next Wednesday may be a crazy day.
Maybe just the beginning of another crazy period. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Speak soon, everyone. Bye-bye. Yep.
Thanks.
Bye.
Neil Brody, a longtime conservative strategist. Spent some time in the Harper PMO. Tim Powers, Summa Strategies, Abacus Data. I'm Rob Snow. Talk back. Coming up, we're talking the U.S. election again today with your help and your calls right after the news.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talk Back. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today's topic, the U.S. presidential election. 1 week from today. 1 week from today. And we just kind of want to keep it wide open on this topic today. Talk about the race, the candidates, the issues, where you think things stand right now. What do you think is going to happen in a week? What some of your concerns might be as the election day in the United States approaches and, the aftermath of that election. So I don't want to talk for the next 2 hours. Phone lines open right now, 1-833-668-2577. Let's kick this around for the next 2 hours. 1-833-668-2577. It's just me and David here today. David is going to be screening the calls and otherwise running the show and keeping everything in check. And I just want to play the moderator today. I mean, let's face it. I think this is the biggest story in the world already. I don't know what would challenge it. And in a week from today, I mean, it's going to be even bigger. It'll be the biggest story in the world on steroids. So the call-in line, again, 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. I mean, there are so many angles that you can come at this story from. I was thinking this morning, I couldn't just even pick one or two. There are just too many. So that's why I want to keep it wide open, get a sense of how you see this race right now. Because, I mean, no matter who you listen to, whether it's, a Democrat supporter or a Republican supporter / Trump supporter, not that they're one and the same. I mean, someone who wants Harris to win, someone who wants Trump to win, they speak about this election in the gravest of terms. I mean, they're speaking as though the future of the United States, of the American Republic, of American democracy, they speak as though, that's what's on the line here with this choice. And the consequences of the outcome of this election could be catastrophic if the other side wins. And, I mean, there's just no daylight between the two. So while we wait for some calls, I mean, here are some things that I'll just throw out there as kind of conversation starters. Why is this race close? Why is it close? When I listen to, you listen to the Obamas, for example, Barack and Michelle Obama, I mean, they are out there, especially Barack Obama, out there on the hustings for Kamala Harris. I mean, much more so than Joe Biden, who's largely been absent from this campaign. I mean, this is what the Obamas are asking. Why is this even close? And their argument is that, look at the character of this man. Listen to how he speaks. Look at how he conducts himself. Look at his past, the multiple felony convictions, civil lawsuits about sex assault, the way his supporters speak about racial minorities. Look who he surrounds himself with. Think of all the chaos and the bedlam that seems to follow this person around. Why is it even close? And that's a question I would put to you. Why is it even close? Why, with 7 days to go, is Donald Trump not only making this a close race, but actually could win the whole darn thing and take back the White House again? That's a good place to start, I think. One of the many questions we can start with. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Let's get to Charles in Nova Scotia and get this thing underway. Charles.
Hi, Rob. How
Hi,
you doing?
Charles. Well, I'm wondering what's going to happen in a week from now. Charles, I'm quite curious about it, watching it very closely, as you can imagine.
I think it
what do you
reminds
think?
me a little bit, well, if you go back maybe 30 years or so ago, with the last Quebec referendum. Do you remember that one where they had to take it down to the second decimal point to prove it?
Right. Okay.
So I think it's going to be razor sharp. But the main comment I wanted to make from what I seem to see in the U.S., and I've heard other people say, is that it seems to be a struggle within the country. I mean, we know there's a great divide of those that think have already lost or they're on the verge of losing their country. And they seem to throw themselves in the Trump camp, sort of like that under that banner of almost 1950s, 1960s USA.
Like he's our last hope kind of thing
Right,
for the
Coca-Cola,
America we love.
That's it. Coca-Cola, Chevrolet, pickup trucks, football, rah, rah, rah.
Okay.
And Kamala seems to, if I've got that pronunciation correct.
Kamala. Yeah.
Definitely represents the current generation and future generations. And I think in terms of thinking, I mean, she's an incredibly poised person. I think. Well, I don't know that she's been tested truly in the political battleground yet.
Right.
But in terms of someone who appears to be logical, clear thinking, and I'll say fair-minded.
Okay.
That would be to me, that's the camp that she would represent. The divide of one thing in terms of what marketers could say, there's tremendous differentiation between these two candidates. It's not like you're getting Donald and Donald Light or Kamala and Kamala Dark. Like these are very, very, very different. Whatever way it does go, there's no question. No one stole. I don't think anyone has taken each other's platform. They seem to be very, very different people. And the parties, et cetera. And but the long term for Canada, I think in the U.S., and it was said in your intro, when you really think of the significance of that divide and how, I don't want to say that I'm fearful, but rocked a bit, that a lot of the supporters on the Republican side, they seem to be camel wearing, gun toting. Like that seems to be part of their brand.
They're what? Sorry, you just kind of dropped out there, Charles.
Oh, I'm sorry. They seem to be camouflage.
Camo wearing. Okay. Yeah.
And then gun toting. There seems to be a militia component to it. I'm not suggesting the Democrats are fully rational and sane as in their own right, because the vitriol and the depth of what people will appear to go to represent their party is, I don't know. I think it's unprecedented in our modern age. I'll finish with this, and thank you for listening to everything. What makes me almost roll my eyes, it wasn't too many years ago that the United States was sending observers around the world to look at elections to make sure they were being held fairly.
Sure. Yeah.
And there was no corruption. Well, it seems to have come home to roost. I mean, it would appear as though there's so much speculation about, is this fraud, is it not fraud? I personally don't think it is fraudulent. And the Dominion voting system, which is Canadian, I believe they won something in the order of $700 million against Fox News for slandering them after the last election to suggest that the voting machines were corrupt.
All right.
But anyway, it's so I think it's too close to call.
Too close to call. Okay. Right down to the wire.
And I think whatever way it goes, I think it will continue for months that people will argue and possibly take up
hanging
arms.
chads. We're headed for hanging chads again, Charles, maybe? Okay. All right. We have to go. Thank you, Charles. You've got us off to a good start here. We're talking the U.S. presidential election 1 week from today, Tuesday. Oh, I'll be glued to the television that night. Watching John King, do the thing with the smart board zooming in on some county in Pennsylvania and why this is so important. Okay, 1-833, take part in the conversation, please. 1-833-668-2577 as we talk American politics today on a Tuesday on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
There's just 1 week to go in the U.S. presidential election campaign. Please share your thoughts that you have on the race. 1-833-668-2577 to Halifax. Norman. Hello, Norman.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good, Norman. How are you?
Good.
Okay.
Just my opinions here.
Yes.
I think, based on what I see, Donald Trump's going to win. But I'd like to share a frustration of mine with the bias in the media.
Sure.
I did not like Donald Trump back in 2016 at all, and I'm not saying that I like him totally now, but if I was an American, yes, I would probably vote for him. And and I know the majority of Canadians don't. I think I heard one poll, 86% of Canadians don't like Donald Trump. But something that has gotten really frustrating for me, my wife's following it more closely than I am, but I've listened to the debates. I've listened to the interviews. I've listened to the interviews of Kamala Harris with CNN even the other night. And I mean, I think she's done 3 different ones with 60 Minutes. I can't remember CBS or NBC. And then I listened to the debate, J.D. Vance and Tim Walz. And so I've listened to them all.
So, yeah, you're paying attention. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but what's frustrating is if you just look at the news headlines, which I read news all the time, every day, the bottom line is Donald Trump can't do anything right, and Kamala Harris can do nothing wrong. Saturday, I'm working around the house, so I'm looking at my news feed. Oh, so Trump was on Joe Rogan last night.
Yes.
And there wasn't one positive title on anything. It was just all negative and how bad it was. Well, we sat down and watched it.
Yeah, you watched all 3 hours?
All 3 hours.
Holy smokes. You have a lot of time in your hands. I watched about an hour of it. I was more interested in the football myself, but on Sunday. But I watched it for about an hour, and my gosh, it was hard to follow along, I thought. Very, he's kind of all over the place.
It wasn't much different than any other Joe Rogan one where he has somebody in and they're just chatting and talking and having conversation. But if you're going to look at it that way, I can guarantee you Kamala Harris couldn't have gone in there and held a 3-hour conversation with Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
The other night when she was talking to Anderson Cooper, a completely left-friendly, Democratic Party-friendly news outlet, I mean, she had panic in her face at times when he was asking her questions. She was scared. Like she has hardly. I know she did one interview with the guy on Fox News, but that's it.
Yeah, Brett Baer. You say you don't really like the guy, but if you had an opportunity to vote, you'd probably vote for him. So why?
Policies.
Policies.
I mean, how did we get stuck with Justin Trudeau because of his flowy hair, shirtless selfies? How shallow is it? Let's talk policy, track record. Where have you been? What have you been doing? And to me, it speaks volumes. Your last caller was talking about, gun-toting, camo wearing. Yeah. Is Robert Kennedy Jr. a gun-toting, camo-wearing individual who's going to work with Donald Trump, on food and getting Americans healthy and stuff? Man, he comes from the most Democrat family in the U.S., and he's willing to join up with Donald Trump based on policy. Same thing with Tulsi Gabbard. She was a rising star, and wasn't she? She was a Democrat congresswoman in Hawaii, and she'd been Democrat her entire life until she, questioned them on the Syrian war, and then she got blacklisted from the Democrat Party. So I think people need to, these people aren't idiots. Neither is Elon Musk. People loved Elon Musk until he took over Twitter, and it's not like he's cut off the left.
I want to talk about Elon Musk. I want to talk about Jeff Bezos and the whole Washington Post controversy. We have got a couple hours to kick all of this stuff around. Norman, I thank you. You favor Trump because of his policies. Fair enough, sir. I appreciate the call. Okay, thank you. You too. Yep. We're talking about the U.S. presidential election today. It's Talk Back here on News Radio. We have to stop here. 21 minutes past the hour. Let's stop it. We'll be right back. David, you hang on the line. Mark in Halifax. Couple of lines there. 1-833-668-2577. As we get going on a Tuesday Talk Back here on News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
U.S. politics, our topic today, 1 week out from the U.S. presidential election, the race for the White House. David in Sylvan Lake, Alberta. David, hi there.
Hello.
Hi, David.
I don't have the question so much in my mind of who's going to win.
Okay.
My question is, how did Donald Trump even qualify to be a candidate for president?
Okay. And why is that your question?
Well,
not that I would have the answer, but
his character, his rhetoric, everything he does. I don't think most places would even let him be a dog catcher. He wouldn't qualify.
Yeah, but I mean, he didn't run for dog catcher. He ran for the Republican nomination. It was like a coronation, David.
And maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think there are any nominating conventions for either Democratic or Republican leader this year. Were there? Usually there have.
Well, yeah, the Republicans had their convention, right?
But on a normal convention, or
normal convention, yeah.
But no, I just
because you remember he was running against the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, and the former United Nations ambassador. Her name escapes me right now. I should know that name. Yeah, Nikki Haley. Thank you.
Oh, right. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And eventually they dropped out, and he became the presumptive nominee, right?
Oh, okay. So it actually was more or less a low key compared to the.
Well, I wouldn't say it was low key. It was all over the news at the time. Yeah. But you don't even think he's qualified to be a dog catcher.
I wouldn't want him to be my paper boy.
I wouldn't want him to be your paper boy. Really? Okay. What's with the disgust?
The reading I've had of his history.
Right. Okay.
Business affairs and
his character. Yeah. Okay.
It's just he's a well, I mean, his language is deplorable. The way he talks about women in particular, but.
Right. Okay.
And that amazes me that so many women I hear being interviewed on the radio programs like yours that would vote for him.
Okay. You think his character should be disqualifying. David, I thank you for your call. Appreciate the call. To Mark in Halifax. Hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Rob.
Hi, Mark.
Thanks for putting me on.
You're welcome.
That's interesting that the last caller, because I have basically the complete opposite take on this. I could care less.
Okay.
About Trump's, personality or the horrible things he says. I care about policy.
Right.
I think that I care about a track record. I think Trump was a good president. I think he was. If you look at the results, the economy was good. There weren't, internationally things were pretty settled. He began, he really escalated the process of getting out of Afghanistan, and Biden administration screwed that up completely. Just no new wars are being started. I think it's a shame that Trump is the way he is.
Right.
And he says.
But you're willing to look past the personal failings or shortcomings or whatever?
I am. And
you
just
are.
one other, and one other thing regarding that, related to that, I think, is, we talk about track record, and I'm not like a Trump surrogate or anything. I am a Canadian in Halifax. I can't vote.
Right.
So, I just want to be clear about that.
Sure.
But if you do look at the track record of Kamala Harris back, she was Attorney General in California. California is falling apart. When she was DA, she locked up, and you can look this up. I don't have the source right in my hand. I can give you exact numbers. Thousands of mostly black and Latinos for marijuana possession. They're in prison.
Right.
So, I think this whole take about, this is related. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but,
We got to stop, Mark. Yeah, they're playing the music.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let me introduce another angle to the whole U.S. election. If you listen to the back and forth and the debate between the two sides, women, reproductive rights, abortion, Roe v. Wade, this is becoming a bigger issue in our own politics. The liberals are having a news conference and they're talking about it right now, abortion. How big of an issue, I'd love to hear from some women on this. How big of an issue is that, do you think, in this election? I mean, certainly whenever I listen to a Kamala Harris interview or a speaker supporting Kamala Harris, they always mention that. And this is really the first chance many American voters will have to weigh in by way of their votes on the United States Supreme Court decision back in June of 2022 that overturned Roe v. Wade. I'd love to hear from women on that, whether you see this as a major issue in the U.S. election campaign. I know that Trump and Vance, they make the case, well, the abortion issue and the Roe v. Wade decision, it puts it back to the states, and each individual state can come up with their own abortion laws. But the fact remains, they kind of set that into motion. Well, Trump did, because he appointed 3 of the Supreme Court justices that made the ruling a reality in the end: Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. So if you have any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear from you. 1-833-668-2577. Calgary, Timothy. Hi, Timothy.
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, you're welcome,
Rob.
Timothy. Yeah. Thanks for calling.
Thanks. So, a couple of things. I'm an immigrant, and I would love it when people say this truth to my face, and that's probably the only one of the reasons why I would support Trump, even though, like the previous caller said, as Canadians, we cannot vote. But yes, Trump did say that people from Africa are from shithole countries, but the truth is, he has a track. It's almost like somebody that can say the truth to your face how he feels. You know? So, and that's one of the reasons why I like Trump, So he's honest.
You like that he just says whatever's on his mind.
I think I like that. I like people who are honest. Yeah, so you can like Kamala Harris flip-flops quite a bit, actually, So when Trump said that he was going to make sure that thieves are not being tagged, she took that on. Like, so, but at first she criticized it, and then she said, oh, I guess it's a good idea. Now she's going to rally behind it. So the reason I would vote for Trump is because, and it also comes down to his personality. I know he's not the best, he doesn't have the most lovable personality.
Yeah.
I would vote for him because I just prefer somebody that would
So, Timothy, as an immigrant, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Do you think Trump is anti-immigrant or racist?
Oh, that is a tough question.
Is it a tough question?
It's a tough question. I don't think, because just like in Canada, the U.S. is built by immigrants, the slaves, so you can't technically be completely anti-immigrant. But of course, Trump has set in motion a bunch of protectionist policies to protect the American job force, which I think is a good thing, because if you look at what is happening right now in Canada, you'll see the reality that we need those things, some sort of protectionist measures.
Okay.
Don't just open the floodgate and let everybody
That immigration in Canada has gone too far, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I wouldn't say it was immigration Canada's fault. I think it's Justin Trudeau and his policy.
Right.
But they went too far. Now they're trying to cut back,
Yeah.
from 500,000 to 395,000 a year. So
365.
So if they put those proper policies in place, then it won't come to the point where there are no houses. People are coming in. People are becoming homeless because they're getting priced out of their own local communities.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. But you like that he's kind of a straight shooter and just.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Timothy.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Fair enough. Dave in Halifax. Dave.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome, Dave.
I'm looking at Trump to win, and I think he's going to win by a greater margin. Let's hope somebody wins by a great margin, so it's not razor thin, and then we have to go on. But I think I feel comfortable that he's going to win substantially.
Oh, really? Okay. What makes you think that?
He'll take. What am I thinking of? The states that are, the main states, I guess, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. I'm not too sure about. So I think he's looking good. I don't trust the polls whatsoever. I think in 2016 he was double digit down to Hillary, and they laughed at him. And he was very close in 2020. I'm not going to say it was rigged, but it was very, very close. And Biden was in his basement. So, and one of the reasons I hope he wins is because I'm worried about the international situation with the two wars going on. Kamala, I don't think has a lot of experience. Let's face it, she has zero experience. Tim Walz, man, would you want him as a vice president if something happened to Kamala? I mean, he's a self-professed knucklehead. He even admitted
I don't know. Has he said that? I don't know. I never heard him say that.
He did in one of during the debate against J.D. Vance. Now, speaking of J.D. Vance, I would far rather see him as a vice president. He is smooth. He's come from a very rough background.
Yes.
Ended up in Yale. He's very smart.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I mean, look, the guy's you could say the guy's an overachiever, right? We consider his background, where he came from.
I love overachievers, Rob.
Yeah.
I love overachievers. Trump is an overachiever.
Was in the Marines, went to Yale, wrote a bestseller, all of this stuff. But he also used to say terrible things about Trump, and Trump is Hitler, and Trump's a Nazi. And now he's like a sycophant, is what people will say.
Well, I don't know about that. I never heard him say that, just like you never heard Walt say anything. But listen, I would say I would rather have them. I also like the policies. I think internationally, I think Trump has a chance to end some of this nonsense that's going on. Look, they've sent Blinken over how many times into Israel? 9 times, maybe 10? Nothing's been resolved as yet. I also think there's a lot of people that are favoring Palestinian in the United States that are very displeased on the ongoings, and they may see that maybe Trump can put a peaceful ending to all the wars going on. I mean, when you hear 3,000 North Koreans now training with the Russians, that's very frightening to me. Like, where is this world situation?
Right. Okay.
So here's the deal.
All right.
Do you feel confident that Kamala running, the most powerful position on the planet, and Tim Walz? And I also like a lot of his domestic policies. Immigration, economy, those are the number 1 and 2 things. I don't know in that order. Economy for sure. Abortion, that's actually quite a ways down. When people are suffering and they see these immigrants pouring into the country, getting treated quite royally, and regular people,
but maybe maybe for you it's way down, but maybe for a woman who fought for reproductive rights, it's not way down on the list. And
Absolutely. And you know what? It is an issue. It'll always be an issue. There's no win issue on that one. I'm afraid.
All right.
I'm not a religious person, but it is. It's a big issue, of course.
Got to run,
that's
Dave.
Going to be decisive.
Got to run.
Factor.
Yeah, you think Trump is going to win? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And he thinks by a substantial margin, by the sounds of things. One line available there. It's yours if you want it. We're talking about the U.S. election 1 week out. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Talking about the U.S. election 1 week out. Andre in Kitchener. Hi, Andre.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Andre.
Well, I said it before. I don't like Donald Trump.
Right.
But he's transparent.
Transparent. Okay.
Transparent, yeah. He is himself. And unfortunately, there's there's a lot of comedy in this, and comedy attracts the people, right?
Okay.
But I'm going to leave that there. I do like what the last caller said, and that's why I called, is if I had to vote, I would still vote for him.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. It's sad. It's very sad where we're at.
Is that because, if there was a better candidate for the Democrats, would you vote for the Democrats, do you think?
I've learned on a show that it's not about just the person. It's about what the mandate is. And that's why, like the last caller said, what I care the most right now is not just here or there, or I don't want to be naive and say I don't care about the states because we are America still. It's about the world.
Okay.
And when Donald Trump says that I could do something about the war, I do believe him because...
You believe him, okay.
Remember in 2020 when he was having problem with, he used to call Rocket Man.
Yeah, North Korea, yeah.
and he's not afraid. Like, yes, he has a big ego, sometimes too big, but I do believe that as long as he has a good team and he's control, I don't know if that's possible.
Right.
But he's got great ideas, and I just hope that the world could be a better place. He does have experience.
So you think, the term that Republicans use, peace through strength, that peace through strength is what the Republicans say. We will just demonstrate peace through strength.
Yes.
That will be so strong nobody will want to mess with us. And if they get it a line, look out kind of thing.
Yeah. But
okay, all right.
Look at, like he said too before, like the Palestinian, Hamas, and Israel right now. It's gone way too long, way too far, and he could do something about it.
Okay, all right. You think the world would be a more peaceful place if Donald Trump was the president?
Well, the thing that I don't like, Rob, and I'm going to be honest, there is so much money involved now in politics that even, let's say, a person like me, a Joe Blow, would want to be a perfect candidate. I could not win because I have no money to back me up.
Right. Okay, Andre, thank you. Yeah, I think you echo a lot of the comments that we've heard so far. Sandra in Kitchener. Hi, Sandra.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good, Sandra.
I'm not going to ask how you are because everybody else.
That's okay.
I hope, pray, plead with the universe that Donald Trump gets thumped. Really
okay.
Bad, as in, maybe bad choice of words. Donald Trump gets shown the door.
Okay.
And it's the way out.
Okay.
That
Why?
man, how in the name of God you can have a casino and bankrupt it, and then somebody turns around and says he's got business acumen? Like, come on.
Okay.
And successful businessmen do not... Well, okay, the successful businessmen that I know do not bankrupt their companies.
Okay.
They don't get people to come and build things for them and then cut their agreed upon contract value.
Right.
As far as
so you don't think he's a particularly good businessman? You don't think he's an honest businessman? Things like that?
I don't think he's honest. I don't think he's honest. I mean, he opens his mouth and this garbage.
He's a liar,
about.
you think? You think he's a liar, right?
Oh, yes, very much so.
Okay, all right.
As far, I'm pro-choice.
Right.
I have always been pro-choice.
Pro-choice.
I think the thing that if something, I have a wonderful family, like kids that are in sort of baby booming time. If something were to happen to my children, and because they don't have a choice of what happens to their body, excuse me, some man isn't being told that he can't do something, but a woman is being told she can't. We're more than 50% of the population, the females. So I think that, they need to remember women have a right to do what they want to do.
So that is a big issue, right?
Body.
It's a big issue, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is a big issue. Every time he opens his mouth, he's just rude and he's obnoxious. And he doesn't deserve, and talking about being would save peace. What, at the expense of the Ukraine? He's going to side with Russia.
Okay.
Ukraine.
He'll reward Russia for its illegal.
He will reward Russia for their invasion of Ukraine.
Okay.
It's the same with. This is an American president, and yes, they sneeze, we get pneumonia, which is fair, which is true, but they're just one country. Israel is a country unto itself. I don't understand how people think that Donald Trump or any American president can turn around and say, Israel, you have to do this because we told you to.
Well, certainly the United States has tried that, but it hasn't been too successful with.
No, it's created
Netanyahu
lots of problems.
Right now. Okay, all right. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Trump
Take
should
care.
be thumped, according to Sandra. We'll be right back. More of your calls on Talkback on Tuesday, talking the U.S. election 1 week from today. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
On the U.S. election, Tim in Dartmouth. Thanks for calling. Tim, you're on the air. Go ahead.
I think the Democrats are running scared. In the past 2-3 weeks, every word out of Kamala and the other guy's mouth is Hitler. Nazi,
yeah.
Dictator.
Right.
That's all. That tells me they're running scared. Now, as for policy, remember who started the, catch and release in the U.S.? It was Kamala. First in San Francisco and then California. She was part and parcel to that.
Okay.
And then when the riots, the BLM Antifa riots, she was right there with Waters and Pelosi and the rest. Oh, we got to get all these people bailed. Now, this is the way a prosecutor is supposed to act? I don't think so. As for
Well, it's very interesting because, you say, soft on crime, right? You say she was a soft on crime prosecutor because she has other critics who say she was too tough on crime and was very tough on minorities, for example, jailing minorities.
Yeah.
All right.
But anyway.
So what is it? Is she tough? Was she too tough or was she too lenient?
Oh, my God. People in San Francisco were leaving the cars open and taking everything in.
Okay.
But anyways, let's take a look at, the world has never been closer to World War III than about right now. Now, when Obama was in, Putin invades Crimea. What was it, a month or so after Biden gets in, Putin invades Ukraine. Who did he invade during Trump? Nobody. Iran was choked, broke, so they couldn't fund Hamas and Hezbollah. China was behaving themselves. North Korea were more or less behaving themselves. As soon as Biden got in, it all went, you know what?
Right, okay.
And as for the southern border...
So again, you think Donald Trump would bring more international stability?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever, right?
Yeah, he'll say, do this, or we're coming in. And as far as the southern border, from what I've read on the stats, the average number of illegals going into the states under Trump was around 70,000 per year. And under Trump, the number of
it was way more than that.
elite,
It was way more than that, Tim.
70,000.
No way.
No.
way. It was way more than that.
Look at the immigration stats in the U.S.
Okay.
And by the way, while Trump was president, there were more legal immigrants coming into the U.S. Over 1 million a year.
Okay.
Under Obama, it was in the 900,000. Trump, 1 million. I'm not sure what Biden is because I don't think he knows anything about immigration.
All right. So that you've outlined all the reason you would like Trump to win. Do you think he's going to win?
You know what? I think so.
You think so?
I think, like the other guy said, it's going to be a bigger margin because a lot of people in the polls aren't going to say they're a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
Because even
our panelists. Yeah, even our panelists today said that. Even our panelists today said that. Tim Powers, owns Abacus Data and said, yeah, it's tough to get people on the phone and have them admit that they're going to vote for Donald Trump. So, that's still a problem. It's a problem in 2016. Okay, that hour flew by. How about another one? Are you up for that on the U.S. election? Let's try that right after the latest breaking news on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
1 week away from the grand finale, a U.S. presidential election day. 1 week from today, next Tuesday. Give us your thoughts on the state of the race at 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. I know it's been quite a wait today. Ernie in Kitchener, thanks for being patient there, Ernie.
No worries, Rob. Thanks.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just find it interesting right now that Putin, he's ordering military to begin nuclear weapons drills. I know it's perfect timing for him with all the mess that's going on both of us right now.
But, there's been lots of saber rattling around the use of nuclear weapons ever since really he invaded Ukraine, Ernie, right?
Yeah, that's true, too. And I find it funny that he endorsed Kamala. I wouldn't say endorsed, but he said that's who he preferred about a month ago. BBC covered that.
Okay.
But that makes me wonder, too. But just in the U.S. on the weekend, and I was with a group of people that, I didn't know who they were. It was outside of a hotel.
Where were you in the U.S.?
I was in Pennsylvania, and I was in Ohio.
Oh, okay.
So just that there was a group of, we'll call them the African Americans were outside, and I just said, as a Canadian, do you care? I just asked slightly what their opinion was, what was going on.
Yeah.
And the one shocking thing that I found, not only there but also at the tailgate, because I went to a football game on the weekend, was the fact that when I asked them who they were voting for, they said Trump, and it was their first time ever voting Republican. The group was predominantly in their 40s and 50s.
Okay.
And they just said, and I just asked why. And they said, for one, the immigration thing was huge on their mind, and they just were better off 4 years ago.
So the economy, right?
Yeah.
That classic question, are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
And I asked them, do you like Trump? Some of them said yes, and some of them said, we just got to do what's better for us right now. I can't stand the guy. But I found it shocking, too, even at the tailgate, when the people that would, there were still a lot of people that were voting Democratic, and I would ask them, too. And a lot of the people had to tell me this is their first time voting Republican, and it hurts them to do so.
Oh, really? Okay.
So that's what I found kind of interesting, just my observation. I know it's only a group of people, and it doesn't say anything, but I found it interesting to see somebody that's been loyal to
what you're talking about right now is, it's a big topic on cable news right now when they have their panel shows.
Right.
About trying to close the deal for the Democrats, especially with young black voters, young black men in particular, is a major topic of discussion down there.
And that's what I was just kind of shocked by it. But I also too, I hope Trump does win, regardless whether you like him or don't like him.
Right.
But I'm pushing that way myself.
Why?
Oh, can I just say Hulk Hogan? But no, I just wanted to make you laugh.
Hogan. Okay, all right.
I wanted to make you laugh. No, I'm not picked that easy.
Okay.
But for me personally, I see that just, again, the economy is so much better. All the people they're bringing in, and that was another concern. They said all the free stuff that new people are coming in illegally, and they're living better than what we are. And how fair is that to us? And what's that say to how important, do they even care about us anymore? And, the other major concern, too, was they really disliked the fact that RFK had to jump ship, and that's a lot of them that swayed the Democrats' mind because he couldn't even run against Kamala. He tried to, and then when he left, they kind of said, well, you know what? At least we have somebody really good on our side that we like and support. That's
okay.
fair.
All right. Interesting. Thank you, Ernie. Okay.
No worries.
Yep. Bye-bye. Okay. Kyle in Listowel. Hi, Kyle.
Hi. Sorry, I was laughing before the break here because the guy thinks that Trump is the ultimate guy that's going to stop Putin from dropping a nuclear bomb. Like, give your head a shake, people. Like, I think both of them are weak for the United States.
Okay.
Do you really think the guy that used to work for the KGB is dumb enough to go against Trump? Like, give me a break. The Russians have the biggest nuclear bomb in the world, the biggest. And do you think that that's going to stop a guy in Russia because
they're kind of all big, I guess, Kyle? Right?
No. Trust me, I did my research.
Okay.
I know what the big. I trust me. This thing could wipe out New York City and everything, and come all the way up to Canada. That's how big this thing is.
Right. Okay.
And do you really think that he's scared of Trump?
Right. But you also called me and told me Canada Post was $178 billion in debt. You were only off by about
So now because I was off by
I'm just saying.
No, Rob, but seriously.
Okay.
So now because I'm off by one thing, now you're going to put that against me?
No, I'm not putting it against you.
No,
I'm
but
just
you are.
saying.
You literally just did.
All right. Okay.
Like, what's your problem, man?
I don't have a problem.
But I mean, like, now you're putting that, like, Canada Post because off by, okay, so I misread a million to billion.
All right.
That's
okay.
a big thing.
All right. So, okay, let's get back on topic here, Kyle. I don't want to be disagreeable. So, where do you stand on the election? Let's just kind of reset here, okay? Are you still there? You hung up on me. Okay. I'm sorry, Kyle. I don't mean to be disagreeable. I really don't. Darren in Waterloo. Go ahead, Darren.
Hey, Rob. Okay, so I'm a Canadian.
Yes.
I'm for the guy who I think is going to, the candidate who I think is going to be best for Canada. And we know the Democratic policies of, like, killing the pipeline that was going to help us and
right.
And we know that. So this is one funny thing I find. Trump's big, magical, amazing tax cut he did, what he did was cut it to match Canada's tax rate, which makes sense because we're both in North America. That's all he did, which resulted in a repatriation of over $1 trillion and paying out of billions of dollars in bonuses in the States. So I think Trump is better for Canada. Trump is kind of like the honey badger. The States could have had Mitt Romney, Harvard-educated, doesn't drink or smoke. Well, Trump doesn't drink either. But he was the governor of Massachusetts. He basically built what Obamacare was built on. But the states could have had someone like that. They trashed him. John McCain trashed him.
Yeah.
So Trump is the guy that can withstand. You have to have a honey badger. No Republican, and even nobody is psychic can tell the future. But we can look back and evaluate the past. Nobody is talking about the fact that in 2020, the guy who the Democrats picked and voted for, put into president, he's effectively not even president now. He's like a senile old man. It's embarrassing. Would Trump was nice to him in the debate, but he could have been a lot tougher. So we know now that Biden was a mistake. Okay. That's categorical.
Some people are concerned about Trump's age, and some people think he's a senile old man. Darren.
Well, there's no senile guy that could riff for a couple of hours. He'll make a couple of mistakes,
right?
But he's not off his rocker. Like, he's not. You saw them in the debate. Everybody saw them in the first debate. Trump is he the same Trump that he was when he was 50? No, but he has a lot of financial acumen. He's got the thing. He's not the best possible candidate that you could ever have, but that guy.
Well, again, some people would say, does he have a lot of financial acumen? What about the multiple business failings, bankruptcies and this kind of stuff?
Well, why not just look at he's worth $10 billion, but why not just look at what he did when he was president? You can, we don't have to guess what he'd do as president because he already has been president for 4 years, and it was pretty good. And your one caller said 70,000. Even though I love Trump, he let in 500,000 illegals, and it's a little over 2 million under Harris Biden, which killed people like 12-year-old Jocelyn Nunn-Gary and stuff like that, which is a big thing on people. I think the over-trashing is finally worn out. It doesn't work anymore. So I don't know.
All right. Very interesting, Darren. Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate your call. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Yep. Bye-bye. 2 lines available. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. 1 week to go until the U.S. presidential election. What are your thoughts on where things stand right now? Love to hear them. Here on News Radio Talkback.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
1 week out from the U.S. presidential election day. Getting your thoughts on the race today here on Talk Back. Jake in Kincardine. Hi, Jake.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought I'd throw my 2 cents worth in.
By all means.
Yeah, I'm just hoping the silent majority is going to come through, if there is such a thing anymore, and get rid of that nutcase Trump once and for all. The guy's an absolute con artist, and I cannot understand how come people even it's close to that Harris and his the vote.
Okay.
It's just unbelievable.
Okay. So you're not a fan?
I certainly am not.
Okay.
No. The guy's been a con artist. His grandfather was, his father was, and he's just taken up. That's what he knows, how to con people.
Okay.
He cons American voters, and hopefully he doesn't get away with it this time.
Okay. Well, here's what some of the callers have been saying. If you've been listening, they're saying the immigration system was better under Trump. Situation at the border, the U.S. border with Mexico. They point to, it's come up time and again so far today, instability internationally.
Yeah.
The world was this is what they're saying, okay? Just playing devil's advocate, right?
It's very troubling.
The world was a more peaceful place when Donald Trump was president. They say the economy.
Yeah. Well, I don't believe that.
You don't believe that? Okay. Why don't you believe that?
The country, ever since he's been in there, he's torn the place apart. Friends that used to be friends are no longer friends because they're voting opposite sides, things like that, relatives and stuff like that.
Yeah, but they're talking about Russia invading Ukraine and what happened with Israel and Hamas in the Middle East, right? And how that's...
Yeah, well, I'm just going to go by what I know of the man.
And they're saying the economy was better under Trump.
I don't believe it. I think he just rode on the coattails of the previous government
of Obama. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, that's my point of view. I thought I had.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I want to get as many opinions as we can.
Yeah.
So we've cleared the phone lines there. 1-833-668-2577. He usually quiets down about this time, so the wait won't be too long. 1-833-668-2577. I think, David, another interesting angle to this whole race is what's going on with these two billionaires. And the role that they're playing in this campaign. Yeah. You have, first of all, you have the wealthiest man in the world, Elon Musk, Tesla, SpaceX, Twitter, X. And, he's been all over the place supporting Donald Trump, holding rallies. Remember, he interviewed Donald Trump on X, on the platform, right? He was at Madison Square Garden rally on Sunday. He's been doing this thing where he's giving away $1 million in a sweepstakes style giveaway to people who sign a petition supporting free speech and the right to bear arms. And I'll tell you, my feed on Twitter, it is just like, it's one post after another from Elon Musk about the election and how the Democrats are going to wreck America and how you have to vote for Donald Trump if you want to save the United States and all of this stuff. So, if you want to weigh in on that and what you think of that. And then there's this controversy about Jeff Bezos, who happens to be the second wealthiest man in the world, the founder of Amazon. He also owns the Washington Post. And the Washington Post on Friday, I believe, said it would not endorse either candidate for president in this election in its newspaper. It wouldn't endorse Harris or Trump. And it also said it wouldn't endorse any candidates for president in any future election. And that angered a lot of people, mostly Democrats, of course, liberals, who see the Washington Post as one of the most important liberal voices in the newspaper. Democracy dies in darkness and all of this stuff. And the paper's lost hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And there are all kinds of allegations about some kind of quid pro quo happening between Bezos and Trump, that Bezos turfed an endorsement for Harris because he doesn't want to anger Trump or be on Trump's bad side. So now Bezos actually has a column in the newspaper, in the Washington Post today, saying, first of all, newspaper endorsements don't matter. They don't sway voters one way or another. So what's the point? He says what they do is most people think the news media is already biased, and that's already come up today. And newspaper endorsements only feed into that narrative that the news media is biased. So why will we do this to ourselves in the newspaper business? But I don't know. I think about this perception. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are number 1 and 2 on the list of the wealthiest people in the world. And the case is being made, they're favoring Trump over Harris. And they're, even some people are saying they're trying to tip the scales in Trump's favor. I don't know. Do you think there's anything to that? I'll just throw that out there as another interesting angle here in the final week of this campaign. Gary, you hang on. Paul, you hang on. Be right back. Take your calls before the bottom of the hour here on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Go to Gary in Montana, on the U.S. presidential election race. Hi, Gary.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
I'm good, Gary. I'm good. Thank you.
Good. This is, I live in Philadelphia.
Oh, really? Okay.
This is, yeah, the city of brotherly love.
Yeah. What are you doing listening to me, Gary?
Well, I'm in East Glacier Park in Montana, across the border, and this is my 30th year of coming out to Glacier National Park. I started coming out in the mid-1990s, been out here for a few months every year except for 2011. Spent a lot of time in the Canadian Rockies in Calgary, I love the time that I've spent in Canada. I find the people that I've met just to be just really wonderful people.
That's
really
great.
nice.
That's great.
And I just wanted to tell you too that I started listening to I forget the call letters, 660 AM from Calgary, and this is the first year that I listened to your show. And when I've been able to, because there are some spots where you can't pick up any radio stations, I've enjoyed it.
Thank you very much, Gary.
I appreciate that.
All right.
What I want to say about the election is this. Now, I am going to be 70. I'm a youthful 69 years old, turning 70 end of next August. So I've seen my share of American politicians and elections. The first thing, and for many years, first thing I've looked at is the character of the people that are running. And I asked this question to myself.
Okay.
What would you tell your children, your grandchildren about the candidates? What redeeming qualities? What would you go to them and say, look at what this person said, look at what this person did, and this is the kind of person you want to emulate? I look at Donald Trump, and I have a quick story which I'll tell, which tells you all you need to know about his lack of character. The man has a lack of basic decency, civility, integrity, honesty, and that's the first thing that I look for.
Okay.
That's the first thing that I look for.
And he doesn't pass your test, right?
Oh, my goodness.
Not even close.
Listen,
Yeah. Okay.
Pass the test. Listen, if he were a student in my class and showed those characteristics throughout the school year, he would be asked many times to stay after class. Just want to talk to
Detention.
you for just a moment.
Okay.
Now,
Right.
the story I want to tell real quick that illustrate this is my next door neighbor for a number of years had a construction company and did work at one of Donald Trump's casinos. Those stories you hear about him not paying bills is true. And my next door neighbor's construction company was out a little bit less than $250,000 because Donald Trump refused to pay. He ended up paying them about $28,000 because he was wealthy enough to just wait it out. And my next door neighbor had had a lucrative construction business, but certainly did not have Donald Trump type money, and he couldn't afford 3, 4, 5 years,
Gotcha.
just litigation.
Okay,
And
look.
that tells me what you need to know, and something else too.
Okay, no, we don't have time for something else, Gary. Unfortunately, they're playing the music, and that's our time. I really appreciate
listen.
your call, though. I hope you'll keep
Hey,
listening when you get a chance.
Yeah, I'm heading back to Philly next week,
All right.
and I look forward to being out here and listening to you next year. Have a great
Safe
winter
travels.
and a great holiday season.
Gary, you too.
God bless you,
Bye-bye.
Canada.
It's Talkback, talking U.S. politics today here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Talking about the U.S. election, it's a week from today. Oh my goodness gracious, what a night Tuesday night is going to be next week. I'll have to take a nap in the afternoon. Paul in Calgary. Hello, Paul.
Hi.
Hi,
yeah,
Paul.
just a quick comment on the election. First of all, I think people generally got to get back to looking at results.
Okay.
Become agnostic towards the personalities of the individuals and so on and so forth. Look at the results. I'm a retired businessman. We employed professional level people in our business from virtually all over the world, everywhere from Africa to Canada to Australia to England. And we had a cohesive group of people working together because everybody understood that they were on the same contract and the same treatment. And society has to get away from all this finger pointing and judging. Take a look at the results of what has happened and base your decisions and your, just like you do in your financial life or anywhere, base them on results. Forget about the personalities. Bill Clinton's actions made Donald Trump look like a choir boy. So just forget about all the noise. Look at results.
Okay,
And
so
as
if
a
you
dual
just
citizen,
if you
I'll be supporting Trump. Anyhow,
okay.
That's my statement, and I'll leave you with that. And have a great day.
Okay, Paul. I was hoping I could ask you a question. So
Sure, go ahead.
So you're saying if you strip away all the noise, okay, and you just look at the results, and you're a results-oriented person, you think Donald Trump produces better results?
Yeah. I mean, the facts are there, and they're indisputable. And I mean, if you want to go back a ways and take a look at the great work that, say, Reagan and Gorbachev did to get the missiles out of Ukraine and the agreements that were signed then, the reason why Russia didn't do any expansion when Trump was in power is because he knew that Trump wouldn't support NATO expansion. And there was supposed to be a buffer zone there.
Okay.
So, you go back, if you take a look at what, people saying stuff that they shouldn't be saying causes leaders. And the expansion of NATO was never part of the original plan. And, okay, now they've expanded NATO, and now you got wars. And if you take a look, under George Bush, just at the end of his presidency, Russia went into Georgia because of the chatter of NATO expansion. Then it all kind of died down when the financial crisis came along and everything like that. But then when Obama started talking about the expansion of NATO again, he went in and took Crimea. Under Trump, okay, there's no NATO expansion. Okay, everything was quiet.
Okay.
And if you look around the world, just what happened since the Biden-Harris administration came in, you look back, China was honoring the two-government, one-country agreement on Hong Kong. What happened shortly after the Biden administration took over? China was emboldened, went in, and I mean, you look at what's being done in China to people. It is just, it's offensive. So,
okay, very interesting. All right, Paul.
The world was at peace. Look at the Abraham Accords.
Gotcha.
You look at it all.
Especially internationally, you have a very global view. Okay, Paul. Thank you
for the pandemic.
Yeah.
Fewer people died during his year of the pandemic than the next year with vaccines. Results. That's
Results.
it.
Okay, Paul. Thank you. Thank you. Bill in Waterloo. Thank you for waiting, Bill. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I'm just amazed at the Canadians that are supporting Trump.
Okay.
The guy's a narcissist.
Right.
He's a rapist convicted by 2 juries of his peer. He's 84 felons convicted. He used to sexually molest teenage girls with Epstein.
I don't know if there's any evidence of that.
If they let all the facts come out, I'm sure it's true. But
if they let all the facts come out, okay, all right.
If he was my grandpa, I'd be taking him to get checked out for dementia.
Okay.
Or Alzheimer's. He's just instead of listening to one of his rallies, read it. Like have it printed off and read what he says. And the guy's not all there.
Okay. So
he's scary.
He's scary.
He's going to give Ukraine to Russia. Like he thinks Putin's a good guy. Like he said Hitler's done some good things. That should disqualify him right there.
Okay.
Who the hell says Hitler did some good things? That's disgusting.
Not me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I just can't. I'm amazed.
Well, again, I mean, you've heard from so many callers who say, "Look, I don't like the guy. I'm not here to like the guy," but they point to the situation of the border. They point to the global situation.
Yeah,
they point to the economy.
A border policy in place, and he crushed it. He canceled it.
Okay.
It was done mainly by a Republican senator. And he canceled it with all his goofy ones.
That's what the Democrats say. Yeah.
And the other thing you got to think about is who's he going to put in power positions? Marjorie Taylor Greene, Bannon, Miller. That's crazy, man. Those people are nuts. Can you imagine Marjorie?
Well,
Taylor
Bannon will have to get out of jail first, I guess. Is he still in jail?
He just got out of jail.
Oh, he just got out of jail, did he? Okay, all right.
Yeah, so he's going to be in one of those power positions. That's scary. I think, man, oh man, I cannot believe these people are supporting that guy.
There's quite a few of them.
I've been following this a long time, and
okay.
Just read one of his speeches.
Well, it's hard not to follow. I mean, I've been following it. Everybody's been following it since he came down the escalator, right, Bill? So
that's when I've been following it, and I just he's so dishonest. Like his family's like a mob family, you know.
So what do you think is going to happen on Tuesday?
I'm afraid he might win, but I'm praying Harris wins.
Okay.
Like if you read her policies, what she's going to do for the American people, like she's not going to, the housing and trying to get middle class families. He's giving millionaires and billionaires tax cuts. How's that helping the middle class?
Okay. All right, Bill. Thank you.
What?
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks for listening to me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll listen to everybody. I want to. There's a lot of pro-Trump callers here today, and a lot of people who can't stand the man and hope and pray, like Bill does, that Kamala Harris wins the election next week. That's why I want to hear from all sides and kind of just get your sense of what's going to happen. I mean, it's going to be an incredible night, I think, next week. I mean, you never know. Maybe it's over early. We can all go to bed, after the polls close in California. I don't know if it's going to be that simple, or, maybe it drags on for weeks, if not months. More of your calls coming up. It's News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
1 week out from Election Day in the United States. Your thoughts, please. Bill in Kitchener. Hi, Bill.
How you doing?
I'm good, Bill.
Yeah. So I'm an American.
Okay.
So and I consider myself a moderate Democrat. I'm of course I'm supporting Harris and Walz. And my feeling about Trump is that I believe he really flubbed the major crisis that came his way, which of course was the coronavirus crisis. And
how so?
People forget about that. He was such a person interested in his own image that who did he talk to? He actually, and I would call him up, Bob Woodward. So Bob Woodward has him on tape.
Yeah,
he admits to Bob Woodward that this virus is an airborne virus. He says, but I don't want people to know that, because if they panic, it will hurt the economy, and that will hurt my chances for re-election. Implied, right? But that's so then he mishandles it, and it has this clunky response which goes through the states, and he made matters worse for not wanting to give people the real warning about what they were dealing with. And I think for that reason, more people died than needed to have died.
Okay.
Just on that alone. And when I hear about the foreign policy stuff,
okay,
fine, sure, a Putin, a Xi, for that matter, a Kim Jong-un is maybe won't be acting out, because essentially you're going to give them everything they want under the table, right? You don't need, you don't need to do.
I think his supporters, what I'm hearing from his supporters, is that they won't act out because he will deliver peace through strength, and that there would be consequences if they act out. That's what I've heard, today.
I hear. I bet
right.
He when you don't show, it's wonderful to spend as much on the defense budget as you can, right? I as a military veteran or a military retiree, my pension comes regardless. But I'm not against defense spending. But the thing is that you don't show peace through strength by destabilizing the chief alliance, which is the NATO alliance.
Okay.
And by putting more faith in Vladimir Putin than in your NATO allies. Now, look, no alliance is perfect. No world situation is perfect. There have been things mishandled by Harris and Biden, but they're trying to keep an even keel and keep those alliances in place, whether in Asia or Europe, and really that's the best way to ensure peace going forward.
Okay.
We know what happens with appeasement with Chamberlain and the French when they tried to appease Hitler. We know where that went, and unfortunately, I think that Trump is more likely to do something like that, and then he'd have to decide once some sort of line was crossed whether or not he would confront his dear friend. I just find myself very disquieted by that.
Gotcha. We'll see what happens. Thank you, Bill. Thank you for your call. Keith in Ottawa. Hi, Keith.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, Keith. Good to hear from you. Go ahead.
I have so much sympathy for the average voter in these states. They got to choose between that scumbag or Kamala Harris. And I believe, Trump may get in because I think she's a weak candidate.
Okay.
So I blame this problem, this situation, back, believe it or not, on Joe Biden.
Okay.
Because we could see Biden failing for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it was she wanted to cling to power or her group wanted to cling to power, but they should have, got him to retire.
And had a nomination.
A nomination rather than, it was too late. They automatically went to Harrison, and I think the Democrats could have done much better. And I'm right of center. I'm more conservative than.
Right, but you don't like Trump.
But I find Trump such a... For him to call McCain a traitor when McCain was in prison during the Vietnam War, and here Trump didn't serve because he got out because he had flat feet or something. How can a person of principle say that about somebody that served in their Air Force and was in prison for a year or so, and he called McCain a traitor. I just, that's one example of how scumbag Trump is.
Right, but you have sympathy for the Americans because you think Both their choices are lousy.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. We'll stop. Take probably a couple of more calls. I don't know if everybody's going to get on the air. We're going to try our best, though. Talk back here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Hickey in Calgary, your thoughts on the U.S. election campaign right now, Hickey? Go ahead.
I guess the best analogy I could give is, if we called an election in Canada right now and, Trudeau was in the election and he hopped out, and then all of a sudden we had, somebody else taking over, and said, hey, everything's going to change. Everything's going to be different. I think with Kamala Harris down there, she's trying to make it seem like as soon as she gets the promotion, the whole job's going to change. Imagine if we elected Christina Freeland and she was walking around telling everybody the economy's going to get better once Trudeau's out and they elect her, but she's currently second in charge for Canada. It's the same sort of analogy. And I don't see the U.S. economy and everything getting better with Kamala Harris because she's acting like she needs to be promoted before she can implement any of the changes that she's talking about.
Okay. And you think that's to Trump's benefit right now in the campaign?
It is, because she's talking about all the things she's going to change, but she's currently the vice president of the United States. So why isn't she changing them now? And if they want more of the same, then keep going where they're going. But if they want different, they're going to have to go with Trump. And unfortunately, he's the only option right now. The only good part about Trump is I think he will keep all the other foreign countries on their toes because you don't know what he's going to do when he wakes up in the morning and hops on Twitter or X or whatever he does.
All right. Okay. All right, Hickey, thank you. This will be our last call of a very busy 2-hour talk back today. Lots of opinions and opinions all over the place today. Chris in Kitchener. Hi, Chris.
Hi, my good man. How are you?
I'm good, Chris. Thank you.
Well, I know you're a bit stuck for time, so I'll just make it really quick.
Sure.
Basically, some of your callers have talked about NATO. Well, NATO is a defensive alliance, and anybody can join it, especially if they have neighbors like Russia. Basically, they seek protection. And that's why the likes of Georgia and Ukraine and Moldova and all of these countries are looking to join NATO, because of exactly what Russia is doing right now in all of these countries. There was never any mention about NATO expanding towards the Soviet Union back then. So any country can do it. Putin using that as an excuse to invade is ridiculous. Another thing that a lot of people haven't mentioned is Trump might have been found criminally liable for a lot of things recently, but he was brought to court, or at least his companies were brought to court in the 70s and 80s for not allowing black people to rent apartments that Trump owned in New York in the 70s and 80s. So the fact that people of color are even considering voting for him now, I find it beggars belief. Another thing was COVID. More people died in the United States than any other Western country under Trump's charge. He completely made a haze of the reaction. He didn't give certain states help with their COVID thing because they weren't Republican governors, so they wouldn't do what he told. And stuff like when he said, drink
30 seconds or less here, Chris. Got to wrap things up here. Yeah.
No worries. Drink and bleach might help. And his friends owned companies that made what was it called again? Hydroxychloroquine. It's crazy that with all of the corruption that people see, and they still think that he would make a better person. It just beggars belief to me.
Well, we'll see what happens. And, what our reality is Tuesday of next week, if it's even settled by then. Look, I really thank everyone for sharing their opinions and, straight from the heart, all your opinions on the situation in the United States. Very important. Huge story, of course. Biggest story in the world. Huge. Talkback returns tomorrow. New topics, more calls.